Hello, and welcome to the Knitten Purl podcast. My name is Ivy. I am a knitter based in Vancouver, Canada, where I live with my three cats. And this is a podcast for me to talk about all the different things that I've been knitting on, and yeah, just about my works in progress, and for me to monologue quite a lot about knitting, as one of my friends put it. This is episode 5, which is pretty wild to me considering I don't really feel very accomplished, and I don't really know if I've gotten any better at this podcasting business. I did have a friend kind of mention that, yeah, she's like, it's monologuing about knitting, which is true, but also made me realize that I have probably not done a very good job of speaking naturally, which is what I'm going to focus on for this podcast. What that will likely mean, though, is less smiling because apparently I don't smile very much when I speak, which is something I notice when I try to edit these videos. But that's natural, right? I guess I could smile more. I used to work in sales, and one of the sayings in sales is smile and dial, which is, if you smile on the phone, that your prospects can hear it in your voice. And I do think it's true. So I'm going to have to try and work on both, because when I smile, my voice tends to also end on an up note. And I think that is probably, that can be a lot, just listening to me talk monologue for 40 minutes. Where was I? So 5. I just came back from Turkey. I came back on Wednesday, and today is Monday, and I have a lot of yarn to show you, as well as one finished object and 2.25 works in progress. But yeah, it's mostly going to be yarn and then probably some life stuff like talking about Turkey. So if you're interested in that at all at the end, please stick around. Also, I apologize for the lighting in here. Yeah, I probably could have tried to find a better lit area of my room, my apartment, but I did not, because I set up this space with all the yarn around me, all the projects around me, and it's just a lot of work, and yeah, I'm clearly not a professional. So let's get started, because there probably will be a lot. I am wearing the Summer Secret crop by Jessie Maed, of Jessie Maed Designs. This is a free pattern. I think I talked about this on the podcast in the past. This is my first pattern that I've knit by her, and you will see that I've knit quite a few more. Especially, I'm going to be talking about another one during this podcast. This was knit in a Hobbii yarn, 100% cotton, of their rainbow cotton. I believe this is the 8/4. Which I think refers to how thick it is. This yarn weight, I think, would probably be like a DK or maybe a heavy DK. And this pattern is written for a fingering weight yarn. So I'm actually happy that I went with a thicker yarn, because I am able to wear this and not have it be see-through. In fact, I wore this on my trip, and my friend that I was traveling with, she said that, actually, she asked me what I was wearing underneath it, and I said, nothing. And she's like, are you sure? Because I thought you were wearing like a bralette or like another piece of cloth, and the answer is no, because I really got out of the habit of wearing bras during the work from home COVID era, and it has been such a struggle to put them back on, and I just don't do it a lot of the time. So yeah, apologies for any of the people who may have inadvertently seen one or more nips, but this is she. And I wish I could say that I do it because bras are a tool of the patriarchy, but probably because of laziness and comfort, and they're a tool of the patriarchy. Like, all the time that I'm saving, I'm like, closing the wage gap or something. Not really. So yeah, this is my first summer top that I knit ever. And I was super proud of it when I was done. It was really quick and easy. Like, I shall show you, cropped. There is some waist shaping. It's knit from the bottom up. So there's increases. The back is, am I showing you this? I crossed the straps and sewed them down very messily. And and the last thing about this, the reason why I wanted to wear it today for this podcast is, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but you knit from the bottom up in the round, and then you do the front and back separately. And I experienced some pretty significant rowing out on this top. And rowing out is when you switch from knitting in the round to knitting back and forth when you're doing a stockinette stitch, and your knits and purls have a different tension, and the different rows have a different evenness. So for those of you who aren't aware, when you're making this sort of fabric, which is called stockinette in knitting, when you're knitting in the round, all you have to do is keep doing the knit stitch over and over again, and that just creates this fabric. But if you are knitting back and forth, in order to create this fabric, you have to knit one row and then purl the next row, and knit and then purl, and you have to do that in between every row. And because it's a different way of making fabric and wrapping the yarn, no, it's the same way of wrapping the yarn, but like a different motion. A lot of knitters, myself included, can have very different tension or very different evenness between knitting and purling, and it can show up when you're making that switch. So for this top, it was quite dramatic. I think it's not showing up on camera as well as it would in real life, but like, you would notice when I switched from knitting in the round to knitting back and forth, and between one row and the next, there's just like unevenness, and just doesn't look as polished as it does when I'm knitting in the round. And I did block it. It actually was worse before blocking, but it is not, it's fixed a little bit. It's not perfect. And at this point, I'm just like, it adds to the charm. And I think I'm the only one who probably notices or would notice or care, or is what I'm going to tell myself. So yeah, like, it's the quirk of this one. And I think it's because I knit this first, and actually I got a lot better at kind of maintaining an even tension between knits and purls the more I knit. So it's, I actually really like it because it's kind of shows how far I've come. And I've only knit this, created this top in April, and it is August now. So, progression in 4 months, that's a pretty good amount of progression. Actually, I'll show you and you can decide if it's progression or not. Other thing about this is that there are decreases on the side here, and they're not super even, also because I was very new to knitting. But other than that, it's super comfortable. Actually, no, one last thing. I did a twisted German cast on, I believe, for the bottom ribbing, and I did it too tight because I did not realize that you should really like spread the stitches out when you're casting on. So like, as you're doing the cast on, once you cast on 3 or 4, you should, or 2 or whatever, you should spread the stitches out a little bit so they do take up a little bit more yarn and thus is stretchier. So she is a bit of a nightmare to get on and off, like over my shoulders, because there's not a lot of give. I can't see this. There's not a lot of give on this anymore than this. And ideally she gives like another couple inches, but once it's on, fits great, and don't need to wear a bra. Have not worn a bra, and have not gotten any comments that I should wear a bra. So, and if you do have comments like that, please keep them to yourself, because I'm not ready for this gravy train to end. So yeah, so that is what I'm wearing. Finished object time. Okay, so this is gonna be a Jessie Maed kind of day, because I finished the outline tee by Jessie Maed Designs, and I finished this. So this was my knitting that I took with me to my trip in Turkey, and I had basically just done the cast on ribbing before I left, and knit quite a bit of this on my trip. I wish I could say I finished it on my trip, but I did not. I finished it at 10:30 p.m. last night, and actually 10 o'clock last night, and blocked it at 10:30, and woven the ends this morning. And she is, as the French would say, still a little damp, but I love her, and I think that she is beautiful. I have so much to say about this pattern. I loved it. I find that Jessie Maed's patterns are very easy to follow and easy to modify, and for a beginner knitter, she takes the time to write really clear instructions and doesn't leave a lot to like implied instructions, or I want to say this, like, she doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. So she's very kind of explicit in saying, like, use this cast on, and she writes out all the directions for German short row. The spoiler alert, there are German short rows. So let's talk about the construction a little bit. So this is knit bottom up, and it's knit in the round, and then you split for, actually, is it called a split? I don't even know. Then you knit the top front and the top back flat, and you join them at the top with a 3-needle bind off. There is short row shaping in the shoulders, both the front and back, to get that really nice sloping effect for shoulder shaping. And you pick up and knit the ribbing on the sleeves. There's no other kind of like fabric besides ribbing to finish the sleeves, and the ribbing throughout is a twisted rib. What else? Oh yeah, obviously it features these lovely drop stitch details, which she gives you very clear instructions for in the pattern. And so it features 2 of them dropped from the front shoulder, and they make their way down the front, because you decrease to create the V-neck. And actually it's 2 because of the front and back. They're mirrored. Drop shoulder along the sides of the t-shirt, and then 2 more rows of drop stitches on the back. There is no waist shaping on this. It's meant for a cropped boxy fit. I tried it on, I think, briefly in my excitement last night, and I thought it fit really well. I have not tried it on since, because it is, as the French say, still slightly damp. But yeah, I really, really like it. It was like a labor of love. Okay, so there are, prepared to hear a lot of my thoughts and feelings about this, because I have so many. The so this pattern is knit from the bottom up, and of all the Jessie Maed patterns I've tried this summer secret crop. I have tried the framework bralette, and I think this is my third. They've all been bottom up, and that's, I think, pretty common for her designs. Of the three I've tried, I'm sorry. That might not be the case, but that is something to keep in mind if you want to try her patterns, because she has so many great summer ones. Knitting bottom up does mean it's a little bit harder to try on as you go, and so I kind of had to guesstimate for length. I did add a couple centimeters for length. I knit the second size, and the reason why I did that was I actually, in my last episode of the podcast, I talked about this, and it was a work in progress. And at the time, I was knitting the first size. And what had happened was, yeah, my plan was to finish the ribbing, then take this on my trip, and basically just use the same kind of just bring like one set of needles with me for my trip, which would have been a great plan. I am really happy that I took the time to try the stockinette in that size needle, which was a 3.75 millimeter, and realized that the fabric it was making was way too airy and see-through. And as you know, I do not like to wear bras, and my hope had been to wear this without a bra, and that would not have happened with the fabric that I was getting. So I ended up desperately upset. Actually, no, I was moderately upset, because I think I realized that with maybe it's like the day before I was leaving, and I was like, oh God, I really gotta get on this. So I ripped the whole thing out and went down quite a few needle sizes, and to compensate for that, I went up a size in the pattern. So I knit the second size. And the reason why all of that happened was because I did not knit a gauge swatch, which is, the swatch, the piece of fabric that you're supposed to make with the recommended needle size to count the number of stitches to see if your garment is going to end up as instructed or as the instructions would have you believe, and also to test out the fabric, and also to avoid making time intensive mistakes like me, which is when you put in a lot of work and then you're like, oh no, like it would have been way faster just to do the right thing. So did not learn my lesson. I would love to say that this is where I hereby affirm to everybody that I'm going to knit a gauge swatch from here on out. But I did not learn my lesson, and I don't think I will in the future either. And I did not swatch when I changed needle sizes. I was just like, I'm going to overcompensate, and I went from a 3.75 millimeter down to a 2.75 millimeter. And, I was very lucky. My hubris has paid off, and I did end up with a fabric that I liked that is reasonably dense and should be opaque enough for me not to wear a bra. However, because I was knitting on 2.75 millimeters, which is the thinnest I have ever used for a project, like a garment that's not a sock. Pause for tea. It took me a long freaking time. Like I had these visions of me finishing this on my trip to Turkey, then wearing it, while I was in Turkey. Like I just made more clothes for myself while I was there. Like, wow. I'm so cool. I did not at all. And yeah, like I said, had to finish this um, last night at 10:30 and have been kind of knitting feverishly on it for the last few days. I did get pretty far while I was in Turkey. I finished the entire front. So you knit up, then you split and you put a bunch of stitches on hold, and then you knit the right front, and then you knit the left front, and then you knit the back. And I had finished both the right and left fronts while I was on my trip and was doing the shoulder shaping of the back um, on the flight home. And yeah, that's where I ended off. And so actually, I'm not knitting feverishly, but I finished the shaping, did the bind off, and did the sleeves in the last few days. And yeah, I'm glad I did because now I have something to show for this podcast, even though I told myself that that was not going to be, why I did or did not record a podcast, but it is nice. And I am really excited to have it done. And here's what I want to brag about, because look at all this front and back knitting that I did with fairly even tension throughout. Look at me, go me. I mean, there are still some parts where there's drawing out, and there are parts in the back as well. But like for large swaths of fabric, it is so even, um, in my opinion. So nice. And to be honest, like the tension was uneven in some of the knitting in the round parts too. I think it's just because I was like knitting while traveling, so like on planes, on buses, in random hotel rooms, and my tension just like varied. Um, so yeah, like she's not like a perfect fabric regardless. Um, but like huge progress, right? Like this compared to like this. I mean, I don't know, y'all, but I'm proud of this. And only in 4 months, like, go figure. And I actually don't know, is it like, would the rowing up be more noticeable on a larger gauge fabric or a smaller gauge fabric? I'm not sure. And again, there is still some of it, which I tried to block out, but has not blocked out super successfully. So if anybody actually knows how to do a really good block on cotton for like this rowing out vlog, please let me know because I'm willing to block it again. And yeah, but like I'm so proud. I did make a few modifications to this, most of which were not that successful. So it's like I should just follow the pattern, except for the one that I do like is the fact that I went down needle sizes and I do like this fabric, and I went up a size and didn't measure myself and just said screw it. I think in the end my gauge is not that far off from the pattern anyway. But yeah, it did make for a little bit of like maths when figuring out how much to knit the back, because on the front for the v-neck it's just a matter of decreases, and then so I had to figure out like what length that was and then when to start the shaping. I think I did an okay job, and so some modifications I made was, instead of doing the shaping for the second size, which is the size that I knit the pattern, I just did the shaping for the first size. The shaping is a series of German short rows. I don't know why I did that. I think I just got tired and like didn't want to do any more short rows. And I also thought that I was really hoping to get this done in 3 balls of the yarn, like 150 grams. But spoiler alert, that didn't happen. And I kind of thought that maybe if I did that, like I would be able to get away with it. I did not. I did the selvage edge a little bit differently. I did kind of like, a different kind of slip stitch edge than was suggested. I don't think it's super successful though, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. And on the back here, I did a bind off in knit stitch instead. I think the pattern actually had it in like purl, and I thought the knit stitch looked nicer, but it is curling a bit, which I figured would happen. So yeah, again, I don't think I was super successful on that. I will say that the twisted rib, while it is really like nice, and really, I think, kind of adds to the design of it. I think you can even tell in this shot though that it's not very neat. And something I really struggle with my style of knitting, which is I knit continental and I knit combination. So I wrap my yarn like that way I can pick up my yarn with both knits and purls. And what it means though is that my purls are twisted, because I wrap the yarn the opposite way. It feels more natural for me to do that. Normally it's not a big deal because I just, like if I'm knitting back and forth, I would just knit through the back leg and untwist it on the next round, or I purl through the back leg. But because you're also knitting through the back leg in order to make twisted knit stitches in a twisted rib, I have to knit and purl through the back leg, and thus it takes me a lot longer and I find it more fiddly to do a twisted rib. God, I've been like, it's like 25 minutes. I gotta stop. I gotta move along. Okay. And yeah, and like some of the drop stitches, like I kind of tugged at it a bit, and so it's not super even along the edge, but I mean, I'm still really happy with it. This is actually like a t-shirt that I would wear and I could see myself wearing a lot. So yeah, welcome to my TED Talk about this. I definitely want to knit this again. I have 150 grams of Hobbii 86. So that's what this yarn is. It's a Hobbii 86. It is a yarn that I bought from their Black Friday sale. I got a 10 pack of it in this color. This t-shirt used up 168 grams, and which means I have quite a bit of it left over, which I will, yeah, I would talk about what I'm planning to do with it, but I must get to moving. And that is my finished object. Let's do works in progress. All right. Okay, so I have two to talk about real quick. This one you would have seen before. This is the No Frills cardigan by Petite Knit. I am knitting this out of Sandnes Garn, Alpakka. I think it's Sandnes Garn. This is a Raglan cardigan knit from the top down. She will have pockets, and it is meant to be quite oversized. There are no buttons because I do not understand buttons, and nor do I like them. And I think she will, like the actual cardigan will end probably mid-thigh on me. I do love knitting this. It's really nice to knit with animal fiber because there is a little bit of elasticity, and it's just so pleasurable to knit with alpaca because it is so freaking soft. Since the last episode, I have finished the sleeves. So I will put this on for y'all. Here is I finished the sleeves with this much yarn left of one of the balls. And you can see how it fits so far. There's still a few more centimeters to go before I would put in the line for the pockets, and yeah, after that, oh, it's getting there. It's warm. So I am hopeful to get this done soon-ish. It actually goes pretty fast because it is so pleasant to knit on, though right now I kind of feel like it's gotten to the point where it is heavy and bulky enough that it's like not the funnest to knit on whenever it's really hot. But I would like to get it done before it gets too cold because this is really meant to be a product knit, and I really want this. I really want this cardigan. So yeah, when I do work on it, I actually like knot up the sleeves so that it's easier for me to maneuver this back and forth because I'm on back and forth knitting now. Oh no, my ring's caught. Okay. That is it, I think, because I don't know what else to say about it. Except, oh man, I like worked up a sweat just doing that. It's very upsetting. So that is my no frills cardigan. Maybe there will be more podcasts where I show you the work. And then my last whip that I have very little to show for is a sock that I cast on for my trip to Turkey. This was meant to be like my other kind of knitting for walking around, and knitting, which I can do not very well. Like I was hoping to work on that a little bit more. But spoiler alert, I did not, because for walking around, I had my phone out and I was taking pictures, and that was just more, and like talking, and that was more fun than knitting. But this is a vanilla sock, just like my own sock recipe. I think it is 52 stitches knit on 2.25. And because I have very small feet, this yarn is Hobbii. It's a Hobbii sock yarn. I think it's a self-striping yarn. It's actually very beautiful, and I have knit another pair of these, so this is actually the leftover, and I'll probably knit this one like I did the other one, which is made them shorties and did a fish lips kiss heel. And yeah, not a ton to show for it. I cast this on, I think, on a walk and tried doing the increases. I think I did them on the plane, but as a result, the toe is a little bit wonky. But she's a sock, who cares? Is what I tell myself. And yeah, I've got a bunch of stitch markers here because I count the number of rows and put a stitch marker in so I know when to do the heel. And that's it. Knitting these on 9-inch circulars, which are actually really fun. But yeah, the annoying thing is that they're really hard to do like magic loop with, which is why the toe also was a little funky, because it's hard for me to see when I've increased, because this part was like the least good. And yeah, and that was it for the knitting that I took with me to Turkey. I really wanted to kind of pack light for knitting, and what I really liked about the outline tee is that when you're actually doing the different parts of the top, you don't even have to put the sleeves on a hold with like waste yarn. You can just like leave them on your circular and just like let them rest there, and it's just really simple to do that, though it does mean a lot of ends to weave in. Okay, 34 minutes. Finished all of the actual knitting content stuff, and now I can talk about my acquisitions. So a lovely viewer on my previous podcast said that she considers yarn purchased while traveling not to be like, yarn acquisitions, but instead to be souvenirs. And I really love that comment and took it to heart deeply and like internalized it. And now that is the theme, that is the lens and the context that I would like you to view these acquisitions as, is that I just really went and did a lot of souvenir shopping. But Turkey does make a lot of yarns. Their the maker of ice yarns. If you've heard of that, they are a online yarn company. They have like lots of really, really inexpensive yarns, though the shipping is what ends up being astronomical. And I've purchased from them before when I was crocheting, and actually purchased quite a bit of acrylic that I no longer have. And yeah, I went and looked up where to go yarn shopping in Istanbul and dragged my friend there. And we found a market where all the different stalls they were all like selling different kinds of yarn. And it was next to, a part of the market that sold sewing materials. So there was cloth, notions, like whole stores just of ribbon and buttons, and it was so cool. I'm not a big sewist. In fact, I don't really sew. I have a sewing machine I haven't set up, but yeah, I kind of wish I did, because the amount of beautiful cloth and notions and just like, who doesn't want to walk through a store of ribbons, right? Like that's so cool. Yeah, so even that experience was really great. And then I found the yarn section and really went to town. Turkey does have most of the yarn shops mostly have acrylic and lots and lots of different kinds of acrylic. So if that's more your jam, I think, there's lots to like there, and there's a lot of blends as well. For this, I was trying to focus my buying on yarns with natural fibers, because those are more expensive here in Canada, and I figured that that's what I'd want to knit with anyways. Even with those parameters, though, I did do some damage, and I thought that for the sake of practicality, that I should, well, not that I should, but I am going to split my acquisitions haul and only do the summer yarns in this podcast, and I will save the fall and winter, so like the wools, for another podcast, because it would be too much, which is very heavy foreshadowing. And I'm just like, I'm still in some kind of denial about how much yarn I acquired. But let's get started, because this is a lot of foreboding. So yeah, so summer yarns. So Turkey had a lot of cotton yarns, and I actually didn't purchase any 100% cotton yarns because I've been knitting so much with it, and I still have quite a bit of it that I don't have plans for, and thought that that would be irresponsible of me. But I will say that, Turkey is known for their cotton, and yeah, like there was lots to choose from if I had wanted that, but there was not. So I purchased, and for most of these summer yarns, I purchased about 200 grams, which is just an amount that I made up that I thought would be good for a top or so. So this is Fibra Natura, and this is 77% cotton and 23% silk, and this is in the black colorway, and this is 50 grams and 120 meters. It is very soft. It's kind of like a 2-ply, and I purchased this and this lovely kind of mint green color, or sage green maybe. If you actually go and look closely, I'm going to cover my eyes so maybe it will focus. But you can see that the 2-plies on this colorway are, it's actually marled. And the more bright green is the silk, I believe. And the lighter green is the cotton, I believe. But I thought it's a really cool effect. And the store that I went to, I think, only had these 2 colorways. Otherwise, I probably would have purchased some more, which is, yeah, true. And it was all really inexpensive. I think the most I would have paid would have been maybe $3 Canadian per ball. Super inexpensive, and the tax was included. The next one I have is also Fibra Natura, which is in the La Chic. Oh, and this is papyrus. This is La Chic, and it is 36% merino superwash, 28% cotton, 18% linen, and 18% bamboo. And this is 120 meters per 50 grams. And this colorway was the only one that they had in the store, which again is a shame because I really thought that this yarn is beautiful and very unique to what I would normally see in Canada, and would have loved to try this in a few different colorways. And I'm not sure exactly, I think it's like a longer gradient, because it is variegated. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work up, but I am excited because I like all the colors in here. There's a red, white, purple, and kind of the blue actually changes to a more rich blue inside. And it's all kind of modeled with the white. And the same thing is happening in the different yarn strands for this yarn as it is for the papyrus, which is that there are multiple different, almost like thick and thin plies that are applied together, and less confident about which ply is what. But yeah, really cool fiber content in this one. So I'm excited. I don't know what I'm going to knit with any of these. Please do not ask me that. Then I found some, then I will talk about, excuse me for the crinkling, some bamboo yarn that I purchased in 2 different stores. It's the same kind of bamboo yarn though. This is Himalaya Bamboo Deluxe, and this is actually the only kind of bamboo yarn I was able to find in Turkey, at least where I was going, and it is 60% bamboo and 40% cotton. And I'm really excited to knit with this because I think bamboo is meant to be a lot more cooling than cotton. Of the cotton tops that I've knit so far this summer, while they've been, great summer tops, maybe because of the thickness of the yarn, they've been a little bit warm, almost like too thick. So I'm hoping for a little bit more like breathability with some bamboo. And this is 100 grams with 250 meters in the ball. And I purchased this pink. This time I also tried to purchase colors that I would probably actually wear on my body. So you're going to see a lot of grays and blacks. This gray, this dark gray, and this really nice, kind of, oh God, what is this? Not like a sky blue, like a almost teal aqua blue. There's a little bit of teal in this, I think. And yeah, 200 grams of each. In another store, I purchased this yarn again because the store was so helpful that I thought I ought to. And I purchased it in black and this pale pink and this pale gray. And for this one, I actually purchased it in quantities that would have meant that I could knit the Velocore top by Andrea Mari, because this was right when she was Atticus. He's being annoying. This is right when Andrea Mari was having her birthday sale, and I bought that pattern. And I thought, it's Atticus, you're being annoying. He's hitting the box. Why? Go to sleep. So yeah, I just bought this in quantities, enough that I should be able to knit that top. And that is one of the only times in my life where I've actually bought yarn for a project, and I deeply, deeply admire everybody who can do that on the regular, because I cannot. I also purchased these like tiny little yarn scissors. I think they're Singer, because the snips that I bought from Hobbii that are adorable and are in the shape of a crane suck and don't even cut properly, so that's not fun. And then I've purchased the last colorway is this mint, and I'm actually using it right now, and that is the 0.25 of a project that I have not even talked about, and I'm in the middle of casting on the Cold Shoulder Crop by Park Williams of ParknKnit. I'm not even done the cast on edge, so there's not much to talk about. And yeah, that's the next one that I want to work on, when I should be working on finishing a lot more of my whips. So that is that for bamboo yarn. And the last summer yarn acquisition is I purchased these yarns on cones, and this is the owner of the store told me that this was linen, but I'm not sure that it is. It does feel rough, and I don't know if it is not linen simply because there was a language barrier, and he and I were both trying our best, and it would not shock me in the slightest if I was not able to communicate or understand what he was trying to communicate to me very effectively. However, I did purchase this in a very lovely rose pink, yet another dark gray, my fave, and a large cone of white. And it's not quite the same yarn. So this white is already kind of 2 strands. And the gray and the pink are just single strands. And it fell. Can you see this against my pink hand? Probably not. And the strands are so thin. It is, for all intents and purposes, a thread. So I will have to double, potentially triple strand this in order to get something I can knit with, but I'm excited to potentially work with linen. If anybody knows how to tell if something is linen versus cotton, can you please let me know? Not that it would like devastate me if it was cotton, but would like to know. And I'm also excited to knit from a cone because I've never done that before, and I admire people who do that successfully. Oh my god, is that it? Did I? Yes, that is it for all my summer yarn that I purchased on my trip. We did it, Reddit. Yeah, I have a lot of summer yarn left and not a ton of summer left, so I should really get on that. I'm knitting the Cold Shoulder Crop next, and then I would love to use this tan and make another outline tee and maybe do a contrast ribbing in order to kind of, be economical with the yarn that I have. But yeah, that is it. I have been talking for 50 minutes about knitting. I was going to tell you about my trip. And yeah, Turkey was a lot of fun. It was really, really hot. And I do not like the heat. I'm actually in a hurry to get this podcast recorded so that I can turn on my portable AC here. And I got really tan, which I'm super proud of. And I, for knitting related stuff, I took those two projects on, had no problems getting through security on the Canadian side, and knit like somewhat happily away, even though I really tried to sleep on my flights. And then when I was in Turkey, we went to Istanbul, then Cappadocia, Izmir, and Pamukkale, and then back to Istanbul to fly back to Vancouver. On our first domestic flight in Turkey, we went back to Istanbul airport, and in the primary security, so when you enter the airport, you go through just a quick security scan, and then you will go through another security in order to go to your gate. And after you check in, they pulled my knitting needles out and said I couldn't bring those on to the flight and I should pack them in my check-in. And I thought, oh no. And did some frantic Googling and kind of saw that Turkish Airlines may or may not allow sharp objects, i.e. potentially knitting needles, onto their flights. And I had only brought my ChowGoo like metal needles, and as you know, was knitting my top in 2.75 and my socks in 2.25 millimeter needles, which are they are sharp objects, not like sharp, but yeah, like they're not thick boys. So I put them in my checked luggage, and then was not able to knit on any of those flights. But because I was leaving out of Istanbul airport and would not have access to any of my checked luggage for my flight all the way back to Canada, which is 4 hours to Frankfurt, then I think a 3-hour layover there, and then 10 hours back to Vancouver, I thought to myself that I really did not want to go that long without having something to knit on. And when I got to Izmir, which was beautiful, Turkey was beautiful all around, and Izmir was very much like kind of like LA. Not that I've been to LA so many times, but it really reminded me of LA. And went looking for a pair of 2.75 bamboo circular needles, and went to many different yarn stores, none of which had that, and they only had metal. And 2.75 was also not a very common, I guess, size. I didn't realize that maybe was only like at least not a common size in Turkey, and maybe Europe, I'm not sure, since it is in the EU. But yeah, first off, I didn't find any needles that were 2.75, period, and then could not find any that were not metal. And the store owners were, oh, Atticus. That was Atticus. Sorry for the noise. He kicked a picture of my grandparents off of my desk by mistake and is now looking very surprised and whoomy and scared. Both Scout and Harper are awake. So, boo earns Atticus. Where was I? Yeah, so I couldn't find any that were not metal. The store owners were very much like, well, wood breaks and metal is forever. And I was like, yeah, you're not wrong, but I am going on a flight. And the best I could do was I found one single solitary pair of 2.5 millimeters in plastic, and was my intention to transfer the project onto these needles and just try and knit looser and like hope that tension gods were with me. But before leaving Turkey on a 3-hour bus ride, I managed to finish the right front of the outline tee and realized that if my tension was off on the other side, it would be super noticeable, and thought to myself, like, okay, I am going to figure this out. So I instead put a lot of time and energy into devising a way to sneak my needles onto the flight, and came up with a method where actually I tried a few different things. But I like created this, I have an notions pouch, and I put all my pens in there. And my initial thought had been to take this metal pen that I have, and like take it apart and put the metal tips in there, because I figured that they would just like show up as a metal pen on the scanner, but they didn't fit. And then I just put the tips in there and just like, prayed that it would work out, and it did. But yeah, this pen would have been great. And it didn't fit because this pen is one of those pens that just like kind of has everything. It's got a ruler on the side. It's got like a level, a stylus, and it also turns into a screwdriver, and it's dead useful, which is why I always take it traveling, except for I always forget I have it whenever I need one of these items that I need it for. So it actually just becomes, dead weight because it is a heavy metal pen. And yeah, I like was so freaking nervous, probably as much nerve and fear as it would have been for like sneaking of actual contraband onto the flight, as I did for these knitting needles, but it worked out. I got them on, was able to knit on the flight, and yeah, very, very low stakes. And yeah, just it happened to me, you guys. I was almost not able to knit on a flight. Terrible. But yeah, Turkey was amazing. And oh my God, the figs were so good. Like in Pamukkale, they were rotting on the street. Those fig trees, just they weren't even picking them. Like to live in a place where you can have access to figs that are so good and delicious that you're just like, let them fall to the ground and rot on the street. I'm sick of them. Was madness to me. Because they're like $8 a fig in Vancouver, and they are not as good as the ones in Turkey. And yeah, the rest of the fruit was incredible. The other food, though, I mean, the olives were so good. Like for the first time in my life, I was like, oh, there is a difference between different olive varietals. Usually, the olives that I've had to date, they just taste like olive. They're just like in the brine. But yeah, to actually like taste the difference between different types of olives was also phenomenal. And so much bread and so much pastry. Probably too much bread and probably too much pastry, I would say. I don't eat like that much dairy, and I actually don't eat that much meat in my normal day-to-day life. And there was a lot of beef and lamb dishes there, and just not used to that much red meat in my diet, nor that much dairy. Um, but I battled through it like a champ, I think. So yeah, it was a tough life. Not really. And yeah, I mean, it was 2 weeks, and my friend and I planned it super last minute, within 3 weeks, which, if you know either of us, is like the opposite of what we're like. But I think we did it really successfully, and I went and did a um, dawn hot air balloon ride in Cappadocia, which is, I can totally see why people say it's a bucket list experience, because it was so magical. And the travertines in Pamukkale with the hot springs, it was just beautiful. I think, I haven't been to that many places in Turkey, but it was probably the country that I visited with the most breathtaking natural scenery. And I'm not usually a natural scenery kind of person. I don't travel for that. I think I live in a very spoiled existence in Vancouver because I'm surrounded by a lot of natural beauty that I just like. It's like doesn't even faze me. I'm very much an indoor person, and I appreciate like cityscapes. And usually it's like, yeah, mountains, oceans, forests, like cool. But yeah, like Turkey was beautiful. So it means a lot for me to highlight that, I think. And so much history there. And the people were very friendly, and there were cats everywhere. And they were so friendly and so cute. And I think that a lot of people have like vacation flings, where they have a love interest or a relationship or some kind of like affair or something that happens on a trip, and it's like you meet these people when you're traveling and then you have a great time, and that itself is a memory that you may cherish for the rest of your life. I have that with vacation animals, primarily cats, so I still think about a kitten that I spent the night with me in Morocco. Think about a kitten I met in Thailand, and I think about so many of the cats that I met in Turkey, and it's just like, oh, why can't I take them home with me? And I probably could have, but to open those floodgates when I already have three would be a lot. And I did miss my cats so much, and I think they miss me too, especially Atticus, which I think we're both surprised by because generally speaking, he and I have a very business-like relationship. Um, and I think he and I uh, know that we're not each other's like first pick in life, which maybe is a little dark to say, but is true. But yeah, I think he missed me a lot, and definitely the other two. Though Scout is unfortunately noticeably fatter. He looks like a palace cat. Have you ever seen those cats they have the round bodies and the very grumpy faces, and they're so cute, and I know that they're like dangerous wild animals, but I just like I feel like he has turned into a palace cat with an incredibly round body, a very grumpy face. And the reason he is noticeably fatter is because my parents very kindly look after my cats when I travel. My mother sent me a picture of them every single day with the caption, some sort of arrangement of all three of them are here. Or like, yeah, three of them are here. Or here's all three. And with, the three of them in the photo somehow, usually the photo is blurry. Usually they're not like looking at the camera in any way or even cute. It's like she did it with the energy of like an Uber Eats or DoorDash delivery driver who is sending the receipt of the delivery. Like, they're here, they're here, they're here. And in one of those photos, I noticed that the food bowl was like so full of food. And they don't even use a food bowl. They use um, basically a food pachinko machine, which is like it's like a tower that I put the kibble in, and they have to go and use their paw and kind of try to scoop some of the food in or push it around so it like falls out of one of the holes and into this like ring around the bottom. And the reason for that is because I am trying to get Scout to slow down when he eats, so that, and if I use a bowl, he just puts his whole fat head into it, and then nobody else can have anything. Um, and yeah, that's why that happens. And it was just like mounded with food. And I asked her like, how much are you feeding them? Because I just do like one scoop a day. And she said 4 to 5 scoops. And it's like, why? And she said, because they look hungry, which is incredible grandma energy. Yeah, she said that, and he finished it all. Well, and he and Harper, and I'm sure Atticus had a couple bites. They finished it all every single day, and so she just kept increasing, which she knows she should know better because she knows he's overweight. She has commented on it, and she knows that I've told her that like if I free feed them, he Scout. Oh, there you are, buddy. Yeah, I said your name, and then you're here. Yeah, thank you. Very nice. He and Harper would become a perpetual eating machine because they turn it into a contest, and neither of them like to lose in this eating game. So that is a thing. And I told her to do 1 scoop, and then a few days later, I noticed that the food was still quite a bit, and she told me that it was 2 scoops, because she thinks that I'm being a mean mother, which is incredible. Again, grandma energy. And when I came back and confronted her with the fact that he was fat, and she knows that he's fat, and like to the point where I don't want to like, fat shame my cat, but I do worry about his health, and he's not going to be responsible. He's not responsible himself as a person. Um, so yeah, she was like, "Oh, he's not that bad," which is again huge grandma energy. And I know it's only been 2 weeks, but I also think Scout's gotten like lighter brown color. He's coming into his final form. And yeah, I miss them because yeah, they grow up so fast without you. God, I'm just like rambling now. I don't have anything else to say about knitting. Actually, I'd have like probably a lot more to say, but we do have to cap it off somewhere. And you have had to go through over an hour of this. If you're still here, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to everybody who left comments on my previous video. That was so nice and kind, and I just had so many people leave like really thoughtful and detailed and kind of like long comments, and I loved reading that, and knowing that people were taking the time to write to me, a stranger, write to me who is a stranger. So thank you, because I love talking about knitting, and thank you for watching, or liking this video, or subscribing if you've done that. Because I think I'm at 100 subscribers now, which is so wild to me. And yeah, summer is almost over, but I am hoping to knit a few more summer tops. I'll be sad when I have to go back to wool in a way, because I just like summer clothes better, because I don't like to wear a lot of clothes. And that's that. Yeah, thank you very much. I hope that you have a good August. I am gonna go and clean up and turn on my air conditioner now. Okay, bye.